to heat up your frozen dinners, grab your TV tray, and settle in for another episode of the Plus Platoon, your podcast for all things Disney Plus, brought to you by Disney Plus fans. Watch along with us every week as we cover all the new, the old, the good, and the bad on Disney Plus. So put down that remote, don't touch that dial, and welcome your fabulous Plus Platoon host.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Plus Platoon. We're a Disney Plus fan podcast that gives honest, spoiler-filled reviews of movies and shows on Disney Plus. We look at new releases, coming attractions, and we'll even go back into the vault to revisit some of the classic Disney that's on the platform. Make sure you're subscribed and you will never miss a moment. I'm coming to you from sunny California with Gina, our producer.
Hi, I'm not producing today. My producer hat is off since I'm on this computer, but I'm so happy to be here to talk about one of my favorite shows.
Yeah, spoiler alert, guys, today's show is a really good series. So if you want to hear why it's a good series, now it's not all terrific, but if you want to hear why it's a good series and which episodes you might be able to skip, stay tuned. Next, we have got Kate. Kate, welcome in.
Welcome. I am also not at home. I am coming to you from sort of sunny Missouri.
Yay!
I'm very sunburnt. I can see it in my face, but yeah, so I am also not, and I will be joining you two knuckleheads in California tomorrow.
In a week, yeah.
We'll see you in a week.
It's gonna be good.
Yeah. Next, from I'm guessing not sunny Buffalo, is Pete.
It was very sunny today. It got cloudy later in the day, but it was very sunny. We've had very nice weather, high 70s, low 80s, low humidity. Very nice. It's been very nice here. Buffalo's secret weapon is our summer. But yes, I am the only Plus Platooner that's actually in their house. And not only are you guys all having these fun trips, my wife is leaving for Florida in 2 days to see my daughter at Disney World, and I am going to be home alone. So
okay. Yeah, but you've traveled quite a bit lately, so don't feel that bad for you.
Well, yeah. It's no.
You just miss your wife and
I'll
daughter.
have a little I'll just have a little pity party by myself.
Yeah.
And from, I'm guessing, because it's always sunny in Hawaii, Steve.
Hi, Tuners. Yes, in Waikiki currently, and in a few days moving over to Lani. So excited about that.
What time is it there, Steve?
It is 3:00 in the afternoon.
Oh,
So we'll have
All right.
a whole night ahead of him when we're done.
And we're coming from 4 different time zones too, right?
Yes.
we
I know,
are.
This is a truly nationwide podcast.
Yeah, we are completely spanning the time zones. Yeah, the only one we don't have
Yes.
representatives is Mountain Time.
Yep.
So,
Awesome.
guys, if you've not already, please like, subscribe, share. That way you will never miss any of these episodes, no matter where we may be broadcasting from. This week, as I said, with a little bit of spoiler at the beginning, we watched the series Imagineering Story. Covers the creation of all of the Disney parks all around the world. And it starts with Disneyland and goes up through the most recent one of Shanghai Disneyland. So I'm going to start with, I'll start with Pete on this one. Which episode was the best? Which episode did you find the most interesting?
This is tough because each episode goes into a slightly different era of Disney and the parks and Imagineering, and all of them are pretty interesting. So I rewatched the first 3 episodes this week. I didn't get through all 6, but I have seen this show before, and yeah, it's a great show. I'm actually going to pick the first episode, and I'm going to tell you why. It isn't that I learned the most in that episode, that I did learn some new things, but watching it again, there's a lot of color footage in that episode, and you very rarely see color footage of the opening of the early days of Disneyland. And most of this, quite a bit of it was in color. And I thought, they actually, for this show, dug up new footage versus
Yes,
the things that
very
we,
much.
it wasn't just, Walt making his speech and the same old things that we see all the time. They actually like went into the archives and got some, as I said, color. I don't know if they went to people that were there and, asked for footage, or if they had archive footage or what. So I really liked on rewatch that episode the best. So that's my pick. Each one again has its own interesting, and of course, that's the much of that episode is stuff that if you're a Disney Parks fan to the level that most of us are, you kind of know the origins and
Yeah.
what made Walt decide to build it and everything. But it doesn't get old.
No.
What about you, Steve? Did you have a favorite episode?
Up there for me is the first one episode also, but I also liked episode 5 when they were talking about Tokyo Disneyland after the earthquake and how it had been closed down, and then it reopening was sort of a statement to the nation and made me think the entire thing with COVID of Disneyland shutting down was such a big thing because Disneyland never shuts down. And then when it finally was reopening of sort of we were making that progress. So that one really hit home. There's lots of episodes I like. I mean, I can talk about later, like my least favorite. I wouldn't say I had one that I did not like. Each part had ones I liked. But I'd say number 1 and then number 5 was probably my top 2. What about you, Derek and Gina?
I'm going to say number 3 because the Eisner years was my Disneyland. And when Eisner and Wells, it was Eisner and Wells, mind you, not the end of Eisner. It was the Eisner and Wells period. That's when I had my annual pass for $99 with parking included any day, no blackouts. And that's when that's when we had the time of the story. And he made sure everything had a story. Splash Mountain was going to open at Disneyland, and I was there for opening day. Indiana Jones opens. I was there for opening day and waited for 8 hours to go on a ride. But that is my favorite because it's nostalgic from my generation, my Disneyland. And it had to be both of them, not just Eisner. What about you, Derek?
I'm going to go with episode 2 just because that's the one that really centers around Florida a lot. Episode 2 starts, Walt has just died. So we're 1966, and all of a sudden, Disney's got to figure out what they're going to do. 66, 67.
66, he died.
It was 66. Okay, I got that one right.
Late
Okay.
December 66.
December of 66, yeah. So they had to figure out what they were going to do with Roy coming in and taking over because he was on his way to retirement. And he stuck it out because you got to remember he was at least 10 years older than Walt.
Yeah. And
he stuck it out. They opened in October. He then dies in December. So he did it for his brother, which was so moving. Pete, I'm like you, not a lot of new information. Not a lot of because we are such big Disney history buffs, but if you are a Florida fan and want to know a lot about how that park really got going, episode 2 is the episode for you. Kate, how about you?
Yeah, you kind of stole my thunder, Derek.
That's what I do.
I have seen this documentary through at least twice. And it's no secret that I am a huge documentary fan. So episode 2 was also my favorite, but it was for a little bit of a different reason. Yes, I am a world kid. We know this. And so, but what I liked about this is that they didn't shy away from the fact that after Walt died, I don't want to say everything stopped, but like everybody kind of went,
what do we do?
What do we do? Like, but we don't have a leader anymore. And this has always been one of my favorite things about this documentary was just that they didn't shy away from that. They didn't try to glorify it. They weren't like, and Walt's spirit echoed through the halls telling us, no, they literally were like, everything just kind of stopped. And everybody, like, we lost our steam. We lost our dad. Like, we lost the creative flow. and we didn't know what to do. We didn't know how to keep going, and we did it, obviously. But that has every time I watch this documentary, that has always stuck out to me, is that they didn't shy away from that. So yes, there are parts of me that love it because it talks about world and because it talks about the creation of the Magic Kingdom and all the stuff, and it gives away some of the secrets. But that is why that episode 2 has always stuck out to me as my favorite.
Yeah. Now, as we've said, not this entire series as a whole, all the episodes are worth watching. But Steve, which one didn't work quite as well as the others?
For me, it was episode 6, the one that mainly focused on Shanghai. I did find it fascinating how they really try to listen to the Chinese culture and try to intertwine this too. I found that fascinating, but it was the least interesting episodes. Like Gina mentioned to me, of like that episode 3 with Eisner was where big here at Disney, that's why I remember the most, all the changes. I love the first one, the history, but number 6 was just the one that least felt connected to.
Yeah, I actually agree with Steve wholeheartedly on number 6.
Or boring, but yeah.
So
I mean,
I agree.
each one had little bits and pieces that were boring. Yeah. So yes, Gina and Derek, what do you think?
Yeah. So I agree with you. Number 6 was my least favorite also. Shanghai, I couldn't really get into it. My other problem was it episode 4 when Frank Wells died? I think it was just depressing. I think
He died at the end of 3.
End of 3.
Yeah, end of 3. So I love 3 and hate 3 because that was the high time and the low time. And I just read a book, and it just tied in so well with this book I read about radio and how radio died after like their 5th year. Like radio's dead now. We don't have the same radio we used to have from the 90s. So that was like really poignant when the partner died and having it just be the end of an era, really. And you could feel it when it became Disney Store. I don't know if you remember that Disney Store on every single ride you get out. It's a Disney Store. So 3 I loved and hated, and 6 for sure was not my favorite.
Okay. I'm going to go a little bit different direction. The one that frustrated me the most was 3. Mainly because I knew so many more details, especially of the Eisner meeting, and of then in 4 of the creation of Animal Kingdom. That pitch meeting was legendary, about how the executives were all not sure, how animals aren't exciting. How can we be exciting about animals? And they brought in, it was either a tiger or a lion.
They brought in the lion.
A lion, and it just walked around the room and then went and laid in the corner, and they got up and said, okay. And then they made their pitch and they said, okay, now tell us animals aren't exciting. So, but I mean, just some of the details that they could have gone into this, and those stories that not everybody knows about, basically how influential Brock was in that meeting. And like why it's called Splash Mountain has nothing to do with water. It has everything to do with a really bad 1980s movie.
Mermaid movie.
Daryl Hannah and Tom Hanks in a mermaid movie.
It wasn't that bad.
Oh yeah, it was.
I liked it.
The fountain isn't there a fountain in Hollywood Studios that's the fountain from Splash?
Probably.
I think there was. I don't know if it's still there.
It used to be there. I know it used to be there. It may not still be there.
I don't know if it's still there, but you're right. Yes.
So that's the one that frustrated me the most. 6 wasn't that great, but the one that I had is one of those, they could have done so much better on this one, was 3. Kate, which one didn't quite hold it up for you?
Yeah. I mean, again, you all stole my answer. The 6th one, I'll be honest, it was a little bit of a running joke when I was a cast member at Disney World that when Shanghai opened, that was why all the budget cuts happened. And anything that happened, it was literally, thanks Shanghai. Like, we got Shanghai, or thanks Shanghai. And so I giggled a little bit anytime I watched this episode, because it was like, I just found myself keep going, that explains it. That explains why we had to cut this or cut that, or da, da, da. Thanks Shanghai. And I just found it to be the least entertaining of the episodes. I don't really have a good reason as to why, It's just the one that didn't hold my attention the most. So
I've got an idea, but Pete, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm gonna say 6 too. It's the most. It felt the most like an ad or an infomercial.
That's fair.
I think rewatching the show, I think it's a little too. The show as a whole is a little too sunshine and flowers. I mean, yeah, they cover, they cover Imagineering going down during, during the post Walt and then also post Frank Wells, but there's not much, it's like everybody gets along and everybody's happy. But then especially that last episode, it's all like, look how wonderful Shanghai is. Isn't this wonderful?
Yeah.
You should come here to visit. Eh. And so that yeah, but it to me it was most noticeable in that last episode. Like rewatching it this time, I still enjoyed it. I don't want to put a negative spin on the show. I think if you're a fan of the Disney parks, it's it's one of the better documentaries out there.
Yes.
We also watched the Behind the Attraction, which is very much infomercial, even though there's some good stuff in there. It's definitely super, super sunny. Everything is wonderful. But I agree with Derek. I would have liked a little more in depth at times, but I would have liked to have like tell us a little bit more about what didn't happen. Tell us a little more about what they planned and they couldn't do. You're like, what about you hear the legend of like Night Kingdom, and which was at one point going to be a 5th park, right?
And you hear the legend of the mythic Beasts Land
Beastland
Land and Animal Kingdom, because on the Animal Kingdom marquee there's a dragon and
it's a unicorn.
Yeah. So I would have liked to have seen a little more about
if you like the series, the book, because I'm currently reading the book. The book goes into a little bit more detail for some things, not everything, but like
not very much.
Saying, I feel like some things they go over really quickly. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
but yeah.
Now, my thought is 6 the one? Yes, 6 talked about Star Wars Land, but that's the only thing in any park that any of us have ever been to or seen. Because everything else was Shanghai, or almost everything else was Shanghai. Is that the reason it didn't connect? I wonder, is because we've got every other episode. Yes, it talked about Disneyland Paris, and yes, it talked about Hong Kong Disneyland. Yes, it talked about Tokyo Disneyland, but at least half the episode was U.S. centric. So I just wonder if that's part of it.
Maybe, but the same thing. I think the Star Wars part of it really felt like an advertisement.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
look how awesome Star Wars Land is. Come and see Star Wars Land because it's awesome. And they didn't get as in depth on the rides themselves or the the technology or the story, right?
Or the story is supposed to be Imagineering Story, and
because the story's terrible, but
there is no story.
There is no story. So it's almost like we couldn't get the rights to Tatooine, so we had to make up this other planet. So okay. So we've all agreed that there were many, many, many interesting stories throughout this. Kate, to you, what was the most interesting story?
Yeah, I mean, it follows the same thing I said earlier with just how everything fell apart, but also didn't fall apart when Walt passed, and how they kind of had to make that choice to continue moving forward, where they could have just kind of let all of it go, since he was the brains of it. That's just the story that I just found the most intriguing, is how they persevered after Walt passed and after Roy passed. Any of those big heavy hitters. But yeah, that was probably because, again, much like all of you, I had already known a lot of these stories. This wasn't new news to me. But I didn't know before my first time watching this, I didn't know just how much it shook the whole company when Walt passed, that there wasn't really an Eisner or an Iger to like just step right up and take over the reins. Like it really was a a transition. So that for me, that's just the
Yeah.
story that sticks out the most. What about you, Pete?
And if you really think back, just in general, how little classic Disney came out of the 70s, you know,
And early 80s.
and early till Eisner,
Till 89,
Eisner
yeah.
and Wells showed up. Yeah. But I'm talking about like live action. I'm talking about animated. I'm talking about the park. Like there really wasn't much new in the parks in the 70s. I mean, yes, Space Mountain and I guess
Right.
Big Thunder Mountain, maybe California.
Yeah.
But very, very well, when you think about those 10 years, I mean, that's it. Kind of like the early 2000s too, actually. That's the same thing. Yeah, I don't know. I have a hard time picking one story. I liked it best when they like spent a little time talking to some of the Imagineers. I got a big kick out of seeing Bob Gurr inside the Matterhorn and the legendary basketball court there. I like that moment when they the wall that all the cast members signed, and he's like, I don't know if I should sign it.
You did this. Sign it.
Yeah, it's like you built this. I like stuff with Tony Baxter. Seems like a really interesting guy. So, but I don't know that they got in as depth with some of those, but I don't know. It's hard for me to narrow it down to one, but I think it was when they talked to the individual Imagineers and you got stories. I like this, and I always like the stories of the origination of the Haunted Mansion. So that was, I think, in episode 2, and I really liked when they talk about the design and how really long it took to develop that, because that building was there for like 8 years before the ride opened. So, all right, what about you, Steve? What was most interesting to you?
I think my favorite part was talking about the sort of the 4 levels of you doing Imagineering. And then you're in town, and then you're at the door, and then you're touching the door handle, of just the detail that they put into attractions. It made me think of Big Thunder Mountain, like when you're in the queue and there's signs that if you see a red lantern, that means that they're blasting. And then when you're riding the ride, all the first tunnels all have white lanterns, and then you get to the last one and all the lanterns are red. So how all the story sort of connects, and these small little details, if you're paying attention, that they put into it. Just that sort of fascinating, the details that that really makes, I think, the difference. I remember the first time I went to Universal after being to Disney so times, like, this is not Disney. And guess it was the level of details that they put into their queues and their attractions. Gina, what would you say?
So I really liked the Tokyo Disneyland stories about Tokyo is their own company. They just are using the Disney name. I had no idea about that. I knew, but I didn't understand why. So I got the why. The money. And then there was something else with the Tokyo. Oh, Disney Sea. I thought that was hilarious. They had Disneyland and Sea. So that was a good one. And I think I just really enjoyed the Tokyo Disneyland, Disney Sea stories. Those were my favorite, because those are not ones that we hear all the time. And, I live at Disneyland, so I can walk down Main Street and see Disneyland's history right there.
I live at Disneyland.
I do. You'll be there soon.
To me, I'm going to go along the lines of Pete. I love Bob Gurr. I love the fact that he designed the Autopia cars. He designed the monorail. He designed the Matterhorn. I mean, just all of the different really in-depth, iconic rides and iconic looks were Bob Gurr. One of the best stories that's not told in this is the fact that when Bob Gurr designed his car and the Stingray came out that same year, they look almost identical and they had no connection to each other's design. So it's just one of those, they weren't sure about the monorail, how it was going to look. And he had a design up on the wall, and Walt says, "Can you make that?" We said, "Yeah." In like the first 10 seconds of the meeting, Walt says, Okay, turns around and walks out, and that's how the monorail design got chosen. I mean, it's just some of those decisions of how Walt was very much this is what we're going to do, and it worked. 99% of it worked. We're not going to discuss the Disneyland circus, but
I love that circus.
yeah, we have to have a circus. It's losing so much money. We'll put the Mouseketeers in it. It's still losing so much money because no one wants to buy a separate ticket and sit for 45 minutes at a circus at Disneyland. Oh, okay.
I did it once. I liked it.
Really?
So you did it once?
Yeah.
It was only around for like 3-4 months.
I know. I remember I live here. There's Bob Gurr.
Okay.
There's Bob Gurr.
She lives there. Didn't you know that?
Yeah, but
Disneyland.
I didn't realize she was
Alive in the 70s.
Since it was since the one I'm thinking of was in the 50s.
Oh no, we did Disneyland. Okay, so there was a circus.
Choose your
thing.
words very carefully, Derek.
No,
There
I
was
did.
a Disneyland circus. There was a circus at Disneyland. They had acts that you would go into in 1980s. It was one of their themes that they had for the year. So we remember it was the year of a million dreams.
Okay.
This was the year of Disneyland circus, and they would have acts. And the problem was the elephants were on Main Street making a huge mess.
They would dump all over Main Street. Yep.
Interesting.
And they get in the tracks.
Yeah, I just remember the horses. I don't think it was an elephant. I think it was a horse that they had in the Aladdin parade. And then they had actual pooper scoopers, but they also had Jafar with a pretend pooper scooper. And my mom's giving me a look right now. But anyway, sorry, Derek and Gina, you disappeared for a minute. So
we did disappear for a little while. Yeah.
So the biggest problem was the elephants walking down Main Street. And the second problem was the liability. They used to have these motorcycles going around in the cage, and they were afraid people were going to die because they were super unsafe.
And because the original Disneyland circus was only there from like October to January of that first year. So that's why I was going. You weren't watching the circus in 1955.
That was actually they actually had a circus tent and everything. Yeah.
We had
it was in the Holiday Hill area.
Okay.
So, which is now the Matterhorn.
Yeah.
So, okay,
got it,
guys. We're gonna go a little bit of blue sky thinking here. Real quick, 30-second elevator pitch. What or where should be the next park? Gina.
All right. I know they're doing stuff here in the middle America, but I still think it should be in Missouri. It should be in Marceline. They need to have a little Walt Main Street. The theme could be turn of the century. It could be his Marceline area. I've been there before. It's in Kansas City, and it's
like northeast Missouri.
No, I've been to Kansas City, and they had a whole thing with the cartoon. He had the cartoon
studios were
there.
Yeah.
They could do a whole thing with that because it's so dilapidated. I think Middle America really could use a park.
But but how big of a park would it be?
However big how big's that area? I don't even know. No, it's not.
No,
it would be a walkthrough. But I really, that area is so dilapidated in Kansas City. You could really bring some regentification to that neighborhood specifically.
Okay, I'm gonna skip me for a second. Kate, what's your thought?
Gina took mine.
Okay, well, expand on it because it's not anywhere close to Kansas City. Marceline is not anywhere close.
I was gonna say Marceline, Missouri.
You do Marceline. I'll do Kansas City. You do Marceline.
I was gonna say in Marceline, Missouri. It doesn't have to be a full-blown park, but to have a Disney walkthrough, whether it's a museum or even like a half park where you might have you'll have the train because he was so big on the train, and you have the huge Main Street, and you have the trolley show, and you have a carousel, and just bring that what Walt pictured in his mind. That was kind of because there's so many Disney parks, so many places. I was struggling to think of where it would be good to have another one. But middle America, in Marceline. And I'm privy to Missouri, like I'm partial. So, but yeah, that's me. Pete, what do you think?
Oh, definitely. They should have one in Buffalo. No.
Niagara Falls on the falls.
Right on the falls.
The falls, right? The Barrel
Barrel
Grand
Ride,
Island.
yeah.
I'm right in the middle of the Niagara River, right here. Plenty of land. No, I think if you ever see the story, look it up on YouTube about Disney's America that was planned for Virginia, I guess it was, or Maryland. I forget exactly where
Manassas
it was.
area, right near the Manassas battleground in Virginia.
Yeah, and I know they had a lot of issues and it never happened or anything like that, but they planned it out. There was like detail. It's kind of interesting because it's very different from everywhere else because it's very much American history. I kind of wish they'd revisit that. I know they have a tendency to go back and do things again. So I don't know if that's something they could reconsider, maybe not putting it right next to a actual Civil War monument.
Capital, yeah.
That or but I don't like I'm a big proponent of we don't need a fifth park in Florida. There's already enough parks.
No.
They just need to keep
Agreed.
they need to keep going with expanding those parks, but I don't think we need a fifth gate, so I don't want to go there. But other than that, I can't really think of where else that we would need one. But that concept of a Disney's America, and whether it's there or somewhere else, I think that would be a cool idea. So, Steve. Nope. Not sure if Steve can hear us.
I don't know if Steve can hear us or not.
Now I could hear you.
Okay.
I would say it comes to mind is a villains park. I don't know where, but the villains are so much loved. It'd be a villains park or something that resembles Tokyo Disney Sea here in the United States. I mean, that's hopefully next year, but I guess everyone I've heard that's gone there raves about it. So those would be my two. So probably Disney Sea, some version of that somewhere here, I don't know where, or a villains park.
Ooh,
so back to you, Derek.
You could do the villains park in Louisiana.
Ooh, with that bayou, Phil.
Yeah.
If you thought Disney had a trouble getting rid of the mosquitoes in Florida, how about the mosquitoes and the Cajuns in Louisiana?
Yeah, that'd be perfect.
My initial response was third gate here in California is Disney Sea. That's where it was originally going to be, was in Long Beach.
Yeah.
And Long Beach said basically, no, you can't do it. Because what they wanted to do is they wanted to do like they did in Hong Kong and all these other places where they used landfill. Basically, they created land out of the ocean. And if that had gotten approved, you would probably see Disney Sea here in California, in Los Angeles. Some people would say the Westcott initial thing, which was basically they were going to do a world showcase and all that stuff. That was going to be the original second park here in Anaheim, was basically a new Epcot.
I'm glad they didn't do that though, because I don't mind some duplicate rides on both coasts, but we don't need the parks to be exactly the same on both coasts. So
yeah,
I'm fine with that.
I think the next area that they're going to try and flush out is expanding on the islands that they're doing with the cruise line and put attractions on those islands. So those are a full day stopover where there is no place but Disney to spend your money.
To compete with Royal, because Royal has that, right? Royal has the park, like a water slide park or whatever.
But the issue with that, first hurricane you get wiped coming through there, the entire island's gone. So that's one thing holding against it. But I would agree. I think don't copy Disney Sea. And you can't, especially with the volcano in the middle, they can't really do Disney Sea now in Florida because A, they've got two water parks anyway.
And Volcano Bay.
B, there's Volcano Bay. So you can't really do it there. I would not do a volcano here. I would do, something else. Honestly, throw some Blizzard Beach and like do like this with the Sierra Nevada bobsledding stuff coming down. I don't know, but I think it's got to be somewhere warm, because as picturesque as Marceline is
In the summer.
It's not in February. So, but think about Marceline. Did you know there is an actual layout of the original Autopia in Mars? Now, there's no cars, but they've got the concrete layout of the original Autopia in Marceline.
Didn't know that.
So, okay. So this was, as I said, we all really enjoyed this, but time to put numbers to it. Time to put our money where our mouth is. Kate, number of pixie dust out of 5 on the entire series.
I give it a 4.
Okay.
Yeah, having rewatched it, the rewatchability isn't quite as high as I would have thought, but I'll give it a 4 also.
I'm going with 4.5.
I'm gonna go that if you are not a huge Disney history, you don't know a lot of Disney history, it's probably a 5. If you know a lot of Disney history, and that's ultimately where I land, it's a 4. As I said, a one-time watch is great. The second or third time, especially some of the later episodes, lose you a little bit. So I'm gonna go 4. But overall, guys, great series. Definitely worth a watch. Definitely worth your time. It was one of the first series that was on Disney Plus, as like when it came out. That was one of the first series that was released. I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon. As I said, Leslie Iwerks wrote a companion book to it.
Steve has it.
I've got it also. To me, Steve, it follows a little bit of the same problems as the show of, yes, she can go more into detail. She still doesn't dive deep enough on some of that stuff.
Yeah, I agree.
So, okay. The other thing we watched this week was, we are now at the halfway point of Marvel's latest creation, Secret Invasion. We're now through episode 3. Samuel L. Jackson has a wife who is a Skrull, who we think, based on the last scene, is not on his side. We are pretty sure that Rhodey is a Skrull at the moment. Gaia, Thalos' daughter, was killed. There's a big problem with that I will mention here in just a minute. And then she was killed because it was basically a mole hunt where they set up something knowing that they were trying to get out who their informant was. We also they are creating super Skrulls, using this machine that looks like, I don't know, something from a 1990s rave party or something like that. Has
well, and they've created them because Gravik heals himself with extremis powers, so yes, he's definitely already a super Skrull.
Yes. The problem with killing Gaia is, if you watched any of the previews and any of the trailers, that character comes back in like 2 other big scenes.
Right.
So, and to me, that brings up the point of, okay, does the person they are inhabiting die when they die, or do they get cut loose?
Well, but Gaia's not inhabiting somebody. That's just her.
That's just her costume.
But
that's she happens to look a whole lot like a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent of the same, because that character was in, and you guys are going to have to help me out, but she was in one of the things as a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent and a half mutant. So that's also where
Emilia Clarke was in something else.
Yes.
I don't think so, but
I don't think so.
I totally agree with you. She's not dead. When when Colby Smulders died, she was all over the press saying, "Yeah, we kept it a secret. I can't believe people didn't know I died." And then they kill this character and nothing.
Radio
So,
silence.
Yeah. So she's not dead. I don't think so. But yeah,
Um,
totally agree with you.
So anyway, so guys, we're halfway through this. Kate, I kind of know, but I'm going to go with Steve or Pete on this one because he is the one who's holding out hope the most. I think at this point,
I'm not really at this point, but
are you wanting to see this? Are you wanting to see the second half of this?
I mean, I'm going to keep watching it. Although I haven't watched through in order everything like Kate has, as she lets us know frequently.
You're welcome, by the way.
I have seen all the MCU movies and stuff. So I'm not hating it so much. Like She-Hulk was way worse than this. So if I can get through She-Hulk, I can get through 3 more episodes of this. It's not grabbing me. I'm trying to find a way to feel into this show, and I just don't. And I really do like most Marvel stuff. I even kind of like Quantumania. When I just finally watched it this past week. But
and as a side note, we will not be watching that as A+ Platoon.
You don't need
no,
to. You don't.
no,
need
we
to.
don't. We don't need to. But I don't know. I do want to point out one thing that I saw online. I mean, obviously a lot of stuff going on. Are there 2 Nick Furies? Because you see him sometimes he has his glasses on, which are his little scanny glasses, because they showed in one scene he was using them to scan. And then in other scenes, you have no glasses Nick Fury in different scenes.
Right.
Do we actually have 2 Nick Furies even possibly working together?
I have said that since like early, like way back.
Yeah, you did.
Where is really Nick Fury? Is Nick Fury still in space? Is Nick Fury on the ground in some of these other things?
Yeah, you said you said, is this really Nick Fury? What
no,
I'm saying is
like months ago, and Gina can back me up.
I do remember.
Is the real Nick Fury who we think it is?
Well,
so
right, but what I'm saying is one of those is the real Nick Fury, and one of them is not. So I'm saying we're seeing 2 Nick Furies in this show. Okay. I'm wondering if we're seeing like someone else is working with Nick, and I'm assuming based on what we're seeing that person is also a good guy. Are we seeing 2 people, one the real Nick Fury and one a Nick Fury that is a Skrull? So it's a little different from what you said there. I totally admit, Derek, you said, is this really Nick Fury? Has it been Nick Fury at all? I'm saying Nick Fury is there, but there's another person that's also being Nick Fury.
I hadn't thought about that. I that hadn't crossed my mind about Nick Fury also being a Skrull. One of the Nick Furies also being a Skrull. That's a really good point. I hadn't thought about that.
But pay attention. There's like scenes where he has the glasses on, and then the next scene he'll show up somewhere else and not have the glasses on. Then the next scene he shows up, he has the glasses on again. So, anyways, Steve, what do you think about the show? Has it interest you at all?
I like it. I'll watch the other episodes, but I'm not like dying, waiting like anxiously for the next episode. So I'll fill it out. I mean, I am intrigued when I'm watching it, but I'm not like loving it.
Okay,
Gina, what would you say?
Okay, so I am not a fan of this show at all. I watched the first episode and I'm like, oh, I really don't want to watch the rest. So I wanted it to be better, but I just am not feeling it. And maybe if I keep slogging through, it could be like Clone Wars, where at the end I'm really happy. I don't know. But also I wanted to say that the gal who plays Gaia played Kira on Solo. That's why you recognize her.
Yes.
And what I'm seeing, what I had seen was a lot of people are thinking that her actual character is going to be Abigail Brand, who is a sword agent in charge of extraterrestrials on Earth. So that's the direction. I think that's where I was getting that other. She has not appeared yet,
but she will.
But that's who they think she will end up probably being. Kate, anything?
You did.
Anything when your mic?
So I don't dislike this show as much as some of you do. I feel like there's gonna be a big plot twist. I feel like we've probably already
At the end of this coming episode, because it's always at the end of episode 4.
It is episode 4. I feel like we've probably already called out what the big plot twist is, but I still have a little bit of hope for this show. I haven't totally written it off. I feel like there are so much worse. There have been just so much worse. So I'm holding out hope. We'll see.
Eternals is still worse.
Yeah.
That is true.
So I said, we've got 3 more weeks of this, and then we will be on to something else. We've got Loki coming in October. We've got Echo coming all at once at the end of November.
That doesn't bode well.
No, dropping it all at once. No, it does not bode well at all. So, Kate, what do we got for the Disney Plus news this week?
Disney Plus news. We only have 2 things on the Disney Plus news. First of all, Disney announced a company-wide celebration coming on October 16th to celebrate the first release from Walt Disney, Alice's Wonderland. Stay tuned for what this means for Disney Plus.
Yeah. So, it's the Disney 100. How they're doing that is October 16th, 1923 is when the first Alice comedy, Alice's Wonderland, produced by Walt Disney, debuted. Yes, he had some of the Oswald stuff was before that, I believe, but that wasn't his own production. Alice was his stuff. So that's where they're doing that. They've talked about how stay tuned to Disney Plus, stay tuned in the parks. There's going to be all sorts of neat stuff. I wonder if that's not going to be this year's Disney Plus day. So We'll see. Kate, what else we got?
And last but certainly not least, the full trailer for Ahsoka has been released. The show comes out on August 23rd. The show will premiere with 2 episodes the first week. And that's it.
Oh, I'm so excited. I cried. Pete posted the trailer. I watched it on my phone. I watched it on the big TV. I watched it on the little TV. I made Brandon watch it. I'm so excited. You need to watch Rebels. That's my takeaway.
And Pete is coming out, and Gina will kind of tag team with him on this of must-watch Rebels episodes. We're going to keep it under 10, right, guys? We're going to.
Well, it might be 12.
Well, I did 9 through.
But you have to do season 4.
All of it?
No, you don't have to do all of it. I've been rewatching, and I'm only partway through season 3. So I think I put 11 episodes through most of season 3, but 2 optional. So if you take the 2 optional ones away, is that those are like Darth Vader centric. So if you really like Darth Vader,
I think season 4 there's going to be 3 or 4 episodes.
I unfortunately, I think season 4 I'm gonna have to do like 4 or 5 episodes.
So you're gonna have like
season 4.
12 or 13 episodes to watch.
And they're 20 minutes each?
Yeah, because it was on TV, so it's fine.
Okay.
But we haven't gotten through season 4 yet, so I'm a little hesitant to say which ones are really necessary.
But there's probably 4.
I was gonna say at some point, I don't know if you want to do as a group watch
we probably
some of those episodes.
Yeah, we will.
So. But rewatching it, there's a lot in there that explains not just Ahsoka, sets up Ahsoka, but like the last season of Mandalorian, you learn about some stuff. Some of the stuff from Obi-Wan, you kind of get a little more detail of. So, it's
the Solo
it's
movie.
A good series, boy.
Really
the Solo movie, you get some stuff.
No, it's good. Yeah. I'm very excited. We're gonna do a little review also because it's so good, and we're super excited for Ahsoka.
Yeah, Gina and I are for sure.
Yeah, you and Gina are. I'm optimistic, but we were let down with season 3 of Mandalorian, and we really let down with Boba Fett. So,
but you get Sabine. Anyway, sorry, you need to watch Rebels.
Thrawn.
The Sabine women, so they get kidnapped and they fall in love. And that's Seven Brides. Never mind.
So Thrawn, you get Thrawn, and it's from the books. The first scene is like from the books, so I'm happy they did that. Anyway,
sure, because there's not enough Star Wars out there. Now we've got libraries to go check out. So it's almost getting as bad as Marvel. So
You don't need to read any books. We're not recommending any books.
No, I'm just saying if you need to.
Yeah.
But those are good books.
Next week, a couple weeks ago, there was a Stan Lee documentary that came out. It's all about the man and his contributions to basically how Marvel started. Steve has watched it. Steve said it was worth a watch, so we are going to pull it up for next week. So it will be that and Secret Invasion episode 4, which in theory is going to have a big twist because it's always episode 4 out of 6. So we can only hope there's a big twist. Couple things coming up after that. We've got Avatar 2 coming up here in a couple weeks. Star Wars Vision season 2 is going to get a look. All those Disney cartoons that they are re-releasing in batches, we're going to cover it. They're doing it in 4 batches. We're going to go after the first half and after the second half. There's some great cartoons in there. And then we've got, we're into August. We've got Ahsoka and we're rolling on. But come September, we don't have a lot yet. So if you have suggestions, please email us at plusplatoon@gmail.com. Would love your suggestions. We'd love to have you on the show. And, get on and tell us how wrong we are about everything.
But you got to be mountain.
I haven't been told that very much lately because
you've been scoring high.
And Marvel's been terrible lately. So
yeah, we've all been agreeing with you on Marvel.
Yeah. So, guys, we have new episodes coming out every Thursday on YouTube and all the major podcasting services. For Kate, Pete, Steve, and Gina, we will see everyone next week. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thanks for watching this week's episode of the Plus Platoon. Be sure to subscribe to the Plus Platoon podcast to keep getting great content each week. Then head over to Apple Podcasts and leave those 5-star reviews as they help make the Plus Platoon visible to even more Disney Plus fans. Also, go to YouTube and like and subscribe to the Plus Platoon channel, where you can watch all future episodes live. If you have a question for the Plus Platoon, please send us an email to plusplatoon@gmail.com or connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram @plusplatoon.
The Plus Platoon is a Disney Plus fan podcast and is not affiliated with the Walt Disney Company or the Disney Plus streaming service. All opinions expressed on the show are solely those of the individual hosts and in no way reflect the views of the Walt Disney Company.
Thanks for watching, and be sure to stay tuned for next week's episode because the Plus Platoon is to be continued.